Nope, not that. If I'm real, you're written down, or just chasing after some finer days. Anticipation. Anticipation is making me wait. It's keeping me waiting. And tomorrow we might not be together. Good morning. Right.
I have an English question.
Okay.
It's about like the alphabet.
Okay. I'll do what I can.
What sound does X make?
Usually it makes the same. Well, it depends on like where in the word it is. Because
I
if a word starts with an X, it's going to make a Z sound.
right.
But if
Yeah.
it's in the middle,
It's
then usually like an
X.
X.
Right, right. Yeah. I was just trying to think of a word that started with X that wasn't Z. And I was really going to start making fun of it for being like the poor man's Z.
It is kind of the poor man's Z. I was watching an episode of America's Next Top Model, or a season of it, and there was a girl whose name was Xiomara, and I think they pronounced it Xiomara, like an S instead of a Z. But yeah, very weird. It was not. I mean, that's not an American name, but I don't know. Very weird. Let's see, who have we got? Who are we missing? Most of y'all are super on time today. Great news, great news. I don't have Troy or Ian yet. We've got everybody else. We'll give them like another minute. Come on. Ba-da-da-do. Here comes Troy. And I don't have Ian. I wonder if I should go ahead and mark him. He'll probably show back up at some point. Okay. So I want to go ahead and get into stuff pretty quickly today because it's my goal to go through 2 more letters. We read the first letter yesterday. There are 4 letters in all, but the 4th one is long AF, to be honest. So we wouldn't get through all of them today, but I'd like to get through letters 2 and 3 and then give you guys some time to finish up your podcasts, which I see that a couple of y'all have private messaged me to let me know that you're done or almost done. I think I have at least one already submitted. So we should have some time towards the end of class to work on those. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and get my copy up. Y'all's copies, of course, you have on Canvas, but I'll also share my screen. Okay. Oh, we'll totally get through these for sure. Okay.
Wait, Corey, did you ever figure out how to get the music for your podcast?
It only it never when I tried to download the song after I pasted the link and everything, it told me to download a VPN, and when I downloaded the VPN, it still didn't work. So, and I'm not about to pay for a VPN.
That was probably a scam. Did it give you an
Yeah.
option to exit out?
No, I downloaded my own VPN. I downloaded the free one, and it didn't work. I wouldn't. So.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. And where we left off yesterday, we just got through the first letter and, basically learned about Captain Walton and how he is on an expedition to the poles, the North Pole. Or is it the South Pole? North Pole. And he's a super ambitious guy. He's like wanting to chart new land that nobody's ever charted before, and he's said that like he's willing to risk his life for this. It's so important to him, and he writes these letters to his sister mainly to be like, if I don't come back, here's why. It could be a very long journey, it could be a very short journey if I just fail, but this is really important to him, and this like sense of ambition that he has is going to be like pretty much his most important character trait. We'll learn about one other like major kind of trait of his today, but we kind of talked yesterday about the parallel between him and Victor Frankenstein, because he wants to do this thing and like make his name go down in history for it, and eventually we'll see Victor Frankenstein kind of wants the same thing, maybe a little bit more personal motivation to do this, because we kind of talked about how like he loses some people that he loves and thinks that he wants to avoid anyone ever having to feel that loss again, which is what kind of drives him to create this monster. But let's go ahead and start reading with letter 2. Would anybody like to read today? Okay, I will read, and hopefully we'll get through these pretty quickly, and then that'll leave out some time to work on your podcast. How slowly the time passes here, encompassed as I am by frost and snow, yet a second step is taken toward my enterprise. I've hired a vessel and am occupied in collecting my sailors. Those whom I've already engaged appear to be men on whom I can depend and are certainly possessed of a dauntless courage. But I have one want which I have never yet been able to satisfy, and the absence of the object of which I now feel as the most severe evil. I have no friend, Margaret. Very sad. When I am glowing with the enthusiasm of success, there will be none to participate in my joy. If I'm assailed by disappointment, no one will endeavor to sustain me in dejection. I shall commit my thoughts to paper, it is true, but that is a poor medium for the communication of feeling. I desire the company of a man who could sympathize with me, whose eyes would reply to mine. You may deem me romantic, my dear sister, but I bitterly feel the want of a friend. I have no one near me, gentle yet courageous, possessed of a cultivated as well as of a capacious mind, whose tastes are like my own, to approve or amend my plans. How would such a friend repair the faults of your poor brother? I'm too ardent in execution and too impatient of difficulties, but it is still a greater evil to me that I'm self-educated. For the first 14 years of my life, I ran wild on a common and ran nothing but our Uncle Thomas's books of voyages. At that age, I became acquainted with the celebrated poets of our own country. Remember, he tried to be a poet and he sucked at it. But it was only when it had ceased to be in my power to derive its most important benefits from such a conviction that I perceived the necessity of becoming acquainted with more languages than that of my native country. Now I am 28 and am in reality more illiterate than many schoolboys of 15. It's true that I've thought more and that my daydreams are more extended and magnificent, but they want, as the painters call it, keeping. And I greatly need a friend who would have sense enough not to despise me as romantic and affection enough for me to endeavor to regulate my mind. So this is the other trait I was going to talk about. The big thing on his mind is that in spite of his like huge ambitious undertaking that he's on, he's got one thing that's keeping him from being happy, and it's the fact that he doesn't have a friend. It's very sad. He doesn't have anybody to share this with. He's got all of these sailors with him, but he's kind of their boss, and it's hard to really be on a friendship level with people you're kind of in charge of. And he really feels that absence of a friend. He wants somebody to bounce ideas off of and to hold him accountable when he's not doing a good job. And that's just something that he really misses. And he feels like he's never really had that. He's been so like in his own mind his whole life that he really wants that. And keep in mind, it does say like he's got a romantic mind. That doesn't mean he's got like feelings for anyone, or we're using romantic in the term that it's in this era, the romantic era, where it's just like emotional and kind of like overblown. And so when he's like, oh, you might think me a romantic, basically he's like just afraid that his sister's going to think that he's being super dramatic. Well, these are useless complaints. I shall certainly find excuse me. I shall certainly find no friend on the wide ocean, nor even here in Archangel among merchants and seamen. Yet some feelings, unallied to the dross of human nature, beat even in these rugged bosoms. My lieutenant, for instance, is a man of wonderful courage and enterprise. He is madly desirous of glory, or rather, to word my phrase more characteristically, of advancement in his profession. He is an Englishman, and in the midst of national and professional prejudices, unsoftened by cultivation, retains some of the noblest endowments of humanity. I first became acquainted with him on board a whale vessel. Finding that he was unemployed in the city, I easily engaged him to assist in my enterprise. The master is a person of an excellent disposition and is remarkable in this ship for his gentleness and the mildness of his discipline. This circumstance, added to his well-known integrity and dauntless courage, made me very desirous to engage him. A youth passed in solitude, my best years spent under your gentle and feminine fosterage, has so refined the groundwork of my character that I cannot overcome an intense distaste to the usual brutality exercised on board ship. I have never believed it to be necessary, and when I heard of a mariner equally noted for his kindliness of heart and the respect and obedience paid to him by his crew, I felt myself peculiarly fortunate in being able to secure his services. I heard of him first in a rather romantic manner from a lady who owes to him the happiness of her life. This briefly is his story. So this is the story of one of the other guys that is kind of high up in his crew. So curious as to why he doesn't consider this guy his friend. Some years ago, he loved a young Russian lady of moderate fortune, and having amassed a considerable sum in prize money, the father of the girl consented to the match. He saw his mistress once before the destined ceremony, but she was bathed in tears and throwing herself at his feet, entreated him to spare her, confessing at the same time that she loved another, but that he was poor and that her father would never consent to the union. My generous friend reassured the suppliant, I don't know, and on being informed of the name of her lover, instantly abandoned his pursuit. He had already bought a farm with his money on which he had designed to pass the remainder of his life, but he bestowed the whole on his rival, together with the remains of his prize money to purchase stock, and then himself solicited the young woman's father to consent in her marriage with her lover. But the old man decidedly refused, thinking himself bound in honor to my friend, who, when he found the father inexorable, quitted his country, nor returned until he heard that his former mistress was married according to her inclinations. What a noble fellow, you will exclaim. He is so, but then he is wholly uneducated. He's as silent as a Turk, and a kind of ignorant carelessness attends him, which, while it renders his conduct more astonishing, detracts from the interest and sympathy which otherwise he would command. Basically telling that whole story to be like, this guy is super duper nice, but he's kind of boring and not that smart. And so I don't think that he can really be a friend the way that I need a friend to be like equal to me. Kind of snobby. Yet do not suppose, because I complain a little, or because I can conceive a consolation for my toils, which I may never know, that I am wavering in my resolutions. Those are as fixed as fate, and my voyage is only now delayed until the weather shall permit my embarkation. The winter's been dreadfully severe, but the spring promises well, and it's considered as a remarkably early season, so that perhaps I may sail sooner than I expected. I shall do nothing rashly. You know me sufficiently to confide in my prudence and considerateness whenever the safety of others is committed to my care. I cannot describe to you my sensations on the near prospect of undertaking. It's impossible to communicate to you a conception of trembling sensation, half pleasurable and half fearful, with which I am preparing to depart. I'm going to unexplored regions, to the land of mist and snow, but I shall kill no albatross. Therefore, do not be alarmed for my safety, or if I should come back to you as worn and woeful as the Ancient Mariner, which is a literary reference to this famous poem, Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner. You will smile at my illusion, but I will disclose a secret. I have often attributed my attachment to, my passionate enthusiasm for, the dangerous mysteries of ocean, to that production of the most imaginative of modern poets. There's something at work in my soul which I do not understand. I'm practically industrious, painstaking, a workman to execute with perseverance and labor. But besides this, there's a love for the marvelous, a belief in the marvelous. Yeah, entwined in all my projects, which hurries me out of the common pathways of men, even to the wild sea and unvisited regions I'm about to explore. Kind of just further solidifying the idea that he's got like really grand ambitions and like thinks that he is really special and is going to kind of go down in history as someone to be remembered, someone who did important things. But to return to dearer considerations, shall I meet you again after having traversed immense seas and return by the most southern cape of Africa or America? I dare not expect such success, yet I cannot bear to look on the reverse of the picture. Continue for the present to write to me by every opportunity. I may receive your letters on some occasions when I need them most to support my spirits. I love you very tenderly. Remember me with affection should you never hear from me again. Your affectionate brother, Robert Walton. So that whole letter is kind of intended to set up this situation where he's really looking for a friend. He really feels like he needs someone who is his intellectual equal. And if we want to kind of make some predictions, you might be able to figure out who his friend is going to be. So we're going to read letter 3, which is the shortest one, and then I will set you guys loose to work on your podcast. My dear sister, I write a few lines in haste to say that I am safe and well advanced on my voyage. This letter will reach England by a merchantman now on his homeward voyage from Archangel, more fortunate than I. I just lost my spot, sorry. Who may not see my native land, perhaps, for many years. I am, however, in good spirits. My men are bold and apparently firm of purpose. Nor do the floating sheets of ice that continually pass us, indicating the dangers of the region towards which we are advancing, appear to dismay them. We've already reached a very high latitude, but it's the height of summer, and although not so warm as in England, the southern gales which blow us speedily towards our shores, which I so ardently desire to attain, breathe a degree of renovating warmth which I have not expected. No incidents have hitherto befallen us that would make a figure in a letter. 1 or 2 stiff gales and the springing of a leak are accidents which experienced navigators scarcely remember to record, and I shall be well content if nothing worse happened to us during our voyage. Adieu, my dear Margaret. Be assured that for my own sake, as well as yours, I will not rashly encounter danger. I will be cool, persevering, and prudent. But success shall crown my endeavors. Wherefore not? Why not? Thus far I've gone, tracing a secure way over the pathless seas, the very stars themselves being witnesses and testimonies of my triumph. Why not still proceed over the untamed yet obedient element? What can stop the determined heart and resolved will of man? My swelling heart involuntarily pours itself out thus, but I must finish. Heaven bless my beloved sister. So still haven't met his friend, which is one reason that letter 4 you can kind of see is pretty long, but we'll read it probably Monday, maybe. And that's the last letter, and it kind of ties up everything that's been happening and transitions us into the main story. For the record, at the end of the book, we do come back to Captain Walton and kind of see like how it all ties together, and how all of our characters are left. So maybe when we read it, we'll see who his friend is, possibly Santa Claus. They are at the North Pole. Who's to say? Okay, so we've got right about half an hour left, which is a good amount of time to work on your podcasts. If you want to leave and work on these independently, you can certainly do that. I'll be on the call for the rest of the time. If y'all want to stay so that you can ask questions either to me or to each other, if y'all want to like help each other figure out some of the stuff, that's totally fine too. But I'm gonna go ahead and cut off my video and mute myself, and y'all just get to work and let me know if you need me. There goes the bell. See you tomorrow. Oh, nope, not tomorrow. Monday. Have a good weekend.